The night was quiet at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Dr. Allison Boyd yawned as she looked at the data on her computer screen. For 5 years, she had searched the stars for signs of alien life. Tonight was just another night of listening to the empty noise of space. Then she saw it. A pattern in the noise. Not random, but ordered. She sat up straight and adjusted her glasses. "This can't be right," she whispered. She ran the signal through filters, checked for Earth satellites that might cause interference, and looked for any natural explanation. There was none. The signal came from somewhere near the Epsilon Eridani star system, about 10 light-years away. Allison reached for her phone with shaking hands and called her old friend at NASA. "Jack, it's Allison. I found something you need to see." Jack Murphy was eating dinner when he got the call. He left his half-eaten sandwich on the table and drove straight to his office. When Allison sent him the data, he stayed up all night checking her work. By morning, he knew she was right. "The signal contains prime numbers and mathematical constants," he told her on their video call. "This is not natural. Someone sent this message." Within days, other observatories around the world picked up new signals. Not just radio waves now, but strange energy readings. Something big was moving into our solar system, slowing down as it approached. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. World leaders gathered in New York as panic began to spread. People stocked up on food and water. Some fled to the countryside. Others went to churches, mosques, and temples to pray. Admiral Samuel Gardner was pulled out of retirement to lead Earth's response team. At 62, he had gray hair and a stern face shaped by years of military service. His job was to prepare for first contact with an alien civilization. "We need to show strength without seeming threatening," he told the UN Security Council. "If they come in peace, we welcome them. If not, we need to be ready." Scientists worked around the clock to decode the alien messages. Soon, they had a name for the visitors: the Vixari. The aliens sent images of their ships and themselves. They looked somewhat like humans but had silvery skin and large compound eyes like insects. Allison and Jack joined Admiral Gardner's team as science advisors. They set up a communication center at a military base in Colorado. From there, they sent messages back to the Vixari. "We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization," was Earth's official message. The Vixari responded with more mathematical formulas and strange symbols. Linguists and computer experts worked to understand them. Slowly, a translation emerged. "We approach with 300 vessels. We seek resources. We will assess your world's compatibility." That message made Admiral Gardner frown. "Resources? Compatibility? I don't like the sound of that." Jack nodded. "It sounds like they're shopping for something, or hunting," Allison added quietly. As the Vixari fleet passed Mars, Earth got its first real look at the alien ships. They were massive, each one bigger than any spacecraft humans had ever built. They had strange shapes, like giant sea creatures, made of metal. The main ship was shaped like a silver arrow and was over 3 miles long. Military forces around the world went on high alert. Fighter jets were ready to take off at a moment's notice. Missile systems were activated. Submarine captains received sealed orders to be opened only if communication with their governments was lost. 14 days after the first signal, the Vixari fleet entered Earth orbit. Hundreds of silver ships filled the night sky, blocking out stars and causing tides to shift. People came out of their homes and looked up in wonder and fear. In small towns and big cities, on farms and in deserts, humans saw the same sight, proof that they were not alone in the universe. At the communication center, Admiral Gardner sent a new message. "We welcome dialogue and peaceful exchange of knowledge. Please state your intentions clearly." The response came fast. "We will meet with your leaders to discuss terms. Prepare a delegation." The UN debated who should go. Some countries refused to participate, fearing a trap. Others wanted to send only robots or drones. In the end, they selected 5 people: Admiral Gardner as military advisor, Allison as science officer, Dr. Richard Patel as linguist, Olivia Martinez as cultural expert, and William Carter as diplomatic envoy. "This is our one chance to make a good first impression," Carter told the group as they prepared. He was a tall man with dark skin and a calm voice. "We represent all of humanity now." Olivia nodded. "We need to show them that despite our differences, we are one species with common values." Dr. Patel was more cautious. "We should be careful what we tell them. Information is power, and we know almost nothing about them." Admiral Gardner was most direct. "Our job is to learn their true intentions. Are they explorers, traders, or conquerors? Everything else is secondary." Allison said nothing. She was studying the latest data from the Vexari ships. Something bothered her about their energy signatures. The ships were using much more power than needed just to stay in orbit. What else were they doing? The next morning, a small Vexari shuttle descended to a landing pad built specially at a neutral site in Switzerland. The 5-person delegation waited as the silver craft landed silently. No jets, no visible engines, just a slight distortion in the air around it. A door opened in the smooth side of the shuttle. A ramp extended to the ground. 3 Vexari emerged. They were tall, about 7 feet, with slim bodies. Their silver skin reflected the sunlight. They had 4 arms and walked on 2 legs. Their faces had no nose, just breathing slits, and their compound eyes shimmered with rainbow colors. They wore no clothes but had devices attached to their bodies. One of the aliens raised its upper right arm. A small device on its wrist glowed blue. "We greet the Earth delegation," said a mechanical voice from the device. "We come to evaluate and exchange." Carter stepped forward and bowed slightly. "On behalf of the people of Earth, we welcome you, and hope for peaceful and beneficial relations between our worlds." The lead Vexari's eyes changed color slightly. It made clicking sounds that its device translated. "Peace is efficient. Conflict wastes resources. We will determine which path is optimal for this world." As they were led onto the shuttle, Admiral Gardner whispered to Allison, "Did that sound like a threat to you?" She nodded slightly. "They're not even pretending this is a meeting of equals. They're here to make decisions about us." The shuttle door closed behind them. On Earth, billions of people watched on screens as the small craft rose into the sky, heading toward the massive Vexari command ship hovering above. No one knew what would happen next. But everyone felt the same thing. After today, nothing would ever be the same again. The inside of the Vexari shuttle was cold and oddly lit with a blue glow that came from nowhere and everywhere. As they rose toward the massive command ship, the 5 humans sat in curved seats that molded to their bodies. None of them spoke. The 3 Vexari stood perfectly still, their compound eyes shifting colors as they communicated silently with each other. Through the shuttle's clear walls, Allison watched Earth grow smaller beneath them. She had dreamed of space travel all her life, but never like this. They passed through a shimmering field and entered a vast hangar inside the main ship. Dozens of smaller craft were docked there, along with strange machines moving about on their own. "Follow," said the lead Vexari through its translation device. The aliens led the humans down a long corridor, where the walls seemed to shift and change as they walked. They entered a large round room. In the center was a raised platform with a glowing orb floating above it. Around the edges stood more Vexari, taller than the first 3. These had additional markings on their silver skin and more devices attached to their bodies. "The High Command will speak now," said their guide, then stepped back. A Vexari with gold patterns on its skin stepped onto the platform. The orb above it pulsed as it spoke. "Humans of Earth," came the translated voice, deeper than the others. "I am Directive Zarvex of the Exploration Fleet. We represent the Vexari Combine, a union of 12 star systems seeking expansion." Admiral Gardner stepped forward. "We are honored by your visit. Earth hopes to learn from your advanced civilization." "Yes. You will learn," said Zarvex. "Your world has resources we require. Your species has potential for compatibility with our systems." William Carter joined the conversation. "We are open to trade agreements that benefit both our peoples." The Vexari made a sound that might have been laughter. Trade implies equal standing. You are not equal. But you may be useful. Allison noticed how the other Vexari watched them. Not with curiosity or warmth, but like scientists observing test subjects. Dr. Patel must have noticed too. He whispered something to Olivia Martinez, who nodded slightly. Zarvex continued, "We will establish outposts on your world. We will extract necessary elements. In exchange, we will provide technology to improve your living conditions." "That would require approval from our world governments," said Carter carefully. "We would need details about these outposts, what resources you seek, and what technologies you offer." "Details will be provided," said Zarvex. "You will be shown our scanning results of your planet. You will see the benefits of cooperation." For the next several hours, the humans were led through different parts of the ship. They saw maps of Earth more detailed than any human satellite had ever made. The Vexari had already identified locations rich in rare minerals and metals. They had analyzed Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and even its core. In another room, they were shown Vexari technology, energy sources that could power a city for years, medical devices that could cure diseases, and farming methods that could end hunger. The message was clear: cooperate, and these could be Earth's. While the others asked questions about the technology, Allison studied the Vexari themselves. Something about their story didn't add up. Why would such an advanced civilization need Earth's resources? And if they controlled 12 star systems, why come all this way for a small planet like Earth? Back on Earth, Daniel Foster worked late at NASA's Cybersecurity Center. He had been monitoring global systems since the aliens arrived and noticed something strange. Tiny anomalies were appearing in defense networks worldwide. Not big enough to trigger alarms, but too regular to be random. He called his colleague, Grace Williams, who specialized in pattern recognition. "Look at this," he said, showing her the data. "These glitches started exactly when the Vexari entered orbit." Grace studied the screen. "They're mapping our systems, probing for weaknesses." "But how? Their ships are in orbit. They shouldn't be able to access secure networks." Grace pointed to a pattern in the data. "See this? It's moving through the internet like a wave. I think they're using our own satellite network as an entry point." Daniel's face went pale. "We need to alert Admiral Gardner when he returns." On the Vexari ship, the human delegation was given quarters for rest. The rooms were clearly modified to suit human needs, with beds and temperature controls adjusted. For their comfort. Too adjusted, thought Allison. It was as if the Vexari had studied humans extensively before arriving. In their private room, Admiral Gardner gathered the group. "Impressions?" he asked quietly. "They're lying about something," said Allison immediately. "Their technology is amazing, but they don't need our resources. A civilization that advanced could mine asteroids or dead planets much more easily than dealing with us." Dr. Patel nodded. "Their translation device is strange too. It changes certain words when they speak of compatibility. The device hesitates slightly as if searching for a substitute word." "I noticed how they watch us," said Olivia. "Not like diplomats meeting equals, but like buyers inspecting goods." Carter looked troubled. "Whatever their true purpose, we need more time. We should accept their offer to continue discussions, but delay any agreements." "Agreed," said Gardner. "We play along until we know more." The next morning, the Vexari returned them to Earth. As their shuttle descended toward the landing pad in Switzerland, they could see crowds had gathered behind. Security barriers. Some people held welcome signs. Others held religious symbols or protest messages. The five emerged from the shuttle to face a crowd of reporters. Carter stepped forward as their spokesperson. "We have met with the Vexari High Command and begun preliminary discussions. They have expressed interest in establishing a presence on Earth and sharing technology. These discussions will continue in the coming days. No agreements have been made at this time." As they were driven away to a secure facility, Admiral Gardner received an urgent message. Daniel Foster and Grace Williams were waiting to see him with critical information. In the meeting room, Daniel showed them what he and Grace had discovered. "Vexari are already inside our systems," he explained. They're mapping everything: military bases, power grids, water supplies, communication networks. They know more about our infrastructure than we do, Grace added, and they're gathering data about human behavior too. Internet searches, social media, surveillance cameras. They're building profiles of how humans react in different situations. Admiral, Gardner's face hardened. So while they offer us gifts with one hand, they're preparing something else with the other. What do we do? Asked Allison. If we confront them, they might attack. Their ships have weapons that could destroy our cities. In minutes. Gardner was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at each of them with determination in his eyes. We do what humans have always done when facing a superior enemy. We adapt. We find their weakness. And we prepare to fight like hell. Outside, the silver ships of the Vexari fleet glinted in the sunlight, watching and waiting. 2 weeks passed since the first meeting with the Vexari. On the surface, discussions continued peacefully. The aliens set up a base in the neutral zone in Switzerland, where they met with world leaders and scientists daily. They showed off more of their amazing technology and repeated their offers of help in exchange for resources. But behind the scenes, Earth was preparing for war. In an underground bunker in Colorado, Admiral Gardner met with General Lisa Rodriguez. She was in charge of a new program called Project Bulwark. For the first time in history, all countries on Earth were working together against a common threat. The Russians and Chinese have joined us, she told Gardner. Even North Korea. Everyone understands what's at stake. Gardner nodded. What's our status? Not good if we fight them directly, said Rodriguez. She pointed to a map showing the positions of the Vexari ships. They have us surrounded. Their weapons could hit any spot on Earth in seconds. Then we don't fight them directly, said Gardner. We need to be smarter than them, not stronger. In a lab nearby, Allison Boyd and Jack Murphy were studying pieces of Vexari technology. The aliens had given Earth some simple devices as a show of good faith. Allison had taken one apart and was surprised by what she found. Look at this, she said to Jack. Their tech is advanced, but it's very rigid. Everything follows strict patterns. No creativity, just perfect efficiency. Jack looked through a microscope at a tiny circuit. You're right. It's like the difference between a human artist and a computer program. The program might be more perfect, but it can only do what it's told. That might be their weakness, said Allison. They don't adapt well to the unexpected. Across the country, Daniel Foster and Grace Williams worked with a team of hackers. They had created a safe network, completely separate from the internet, where they could test ideas without the Vexari detecting them. The virus is ready, Daniel told Grace. If we can get it into their main systems, it will spread through their fleet like wildfire. Grace looked worried. But how do we deliver it? We can't just email it to them. We'll need someone to get physically close to their main ship, said Daniel. And we'll need a distraction. That evening, all these groups met with Admiral Gardner by secure video call. Also joining was William Carter, who was still meeting with the Vexari daily. They're getting impatient, Carter reported. They want us to sign their agreement by the end of the week. If we delay again, they say they'll find alternative methods to get what they need. General Rodriguez spoke next. My team has been studying their patterns. The Vexari are very orderly. Their ships patrol in perfect formations. They never deviate from their routes by even a meter. That matches what we found in their technology, said Allison. They value efficiency and predictability. They don't handle surprises well. Daniel explained his virus plan. We need to get this program into their network. Once inside, it will disrupt their communications. Their ships won't be able to coordinate with each other. Admiral Gardner considered all this information. So we have a potential plan, but we need more time. There's something else, said Carter. The Vexari are landing small teams in remote areas. The Sahara Desert, northern Canada, the Australian outback. We just learned about it today. What are they doing there? Asked Gardner. They say they're just testing the environment, but my sources say they're setting up some kind of devices, possibly weapons. Before they could discuss further, an alarm sounded. A lieutenant rushed into the room. Sir, the Vexari have launched an attack. They've hit military bases in 3 countries with energy weapons fired from orbit. Everyone watched. The screens as footage showed smoldering craters where bases had once stood. The strikes were incredibly precise. Only military targets were hit with no damage to surrounding areas. A message came in from Zarvex, the Vexari leader. His silver face filled the main screen. "This demonstration was necessary," he said. "Your leaders continue to delay. We detect your military preparations. This is inefficient. You have 1 planetary rotation to accept our terms, or we will begin pacification procedures." After the call ended, the room was silent for a moment. Then Admiral Gardner spoke. "They've shown their hand, now we show ours." He turned to General Rodriguez. "How quickly can you deploy Operation Thunderclap?" 12 hours at minimum, she said. "But it's not ready for full deployment." "Make it ready," said Gardner. "And Carter, keep the Vexari talking. Tell them we're scared and considering their offer. Buy us time." "What about the virus?" asked Daniel. "We'll need a team to deliver it directly to their command ship," said Gardner. He looked around the room. "Any volunteers?" Allison stepped forward. "I'll go. I know their technology better than anyone." Jack joined her. "You'll need backup." Gardner nodded. "Good. We leave in 6 hours." Around the world, soldiers and civilians prepared for what might be humanity's last stand. In secret bases, special weapons were readied. Not high-tech lasers, but simple creative tools that the Vexari would never expect. In India, engineers built jammers using old radio parts. In Brazil, farmers converted crop dusters to spray chemicals that would blind Vexari sensors. In Kenya, traditional hunters prepared traps that used no metal or electronics the aliens could detect. At NASA, scientists reprogrammed satellites to create an electromagnetic pulse that might disrupt Vexari ships. It wasn't sophisticated, but it didn't need to be. It just needed to surprise them. As night fell across America, Allison packed a small bag for the mission. Inside was a normal-looking pen drive that contained Daniel's virus. Such a simple device to carry humanity's hopes. Jack met her outside the bunker where a helicopter waited. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." Admiral Gardner joined them, wearing his full naval uniform. "I'm coming too," he said. "If we're going to fight for Earth, I want to be on the front line." As their helicopter lifted off into the night sky, Allison looked up at the stars. Between them hung the dark shapes of the Vexari ships like predators waiting to strike. Tomorrow, those ships would either control Earth, or humanity would prove that even the most advanced enemy should fear what humans can do when their backs are against the wall. General Rodriguez watched them go, then turned to her team. "Send the signal. Operation Thunderclap begins at dawn." Across the planet, millions of people looked up at the night sky, not knowing that by this time tomorrow, the fate of humanity would be decided. They only knew that strange ships filled the stars, and the world held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Dawn broke over the Swiss Alps as William Carter entered the Vexari base for what might be the last diplomatic meeting in human history. He carried a briefcase with fake documents showing Earth's surrender. His real job was to keep the aliens talking while Operation Thunderclap began. "The world leaders have considered your offer," he told Zarvex. "They request a few minor changes to the agreement." The tall silver alien's eyes shifted to a greenish color. "There will be no changes, only acceptance or consequences." Carter nodded humbly. "Of course. But perhaps we could discuss the timeline for resource extraction. Some areas will take time to evacuate." As Carter kept the Vexari leader distracted, Admiral Gardner, Allison Boyd, and Jack Murphy approached the main alien ship in a small shuttle. The Vexari had given it to Earth as a goodwill gesture. Now humans were using it to sneak aboard their command vessel. "We're being scanned," said Jack, watching the controls. Allison checked a device she had built. "The transponder is working. They think we're bringing medical samples for their research." The shuttle passed through the shield and landed in the same hangar they had visited before. Vexari workers moved around, ignoring the small human craft. The 3 humans wore plain clothes with hidden weapons. Allison carried the small drive with Daniel's virus in her pocket. "Remember the plan," whispered Gardner. "We need to reach their central computer core. Allison will insert the virus. Jack and I will create distractions if needed." They walked through the corridors, following a map Allison had memorized from their first visit. They passed several Vixari, who barely glanced at them. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they hadn't considered humans might infiltrate their ship. Back on Earth, the clock hit 7 a.m. Eastern Time. General Rodriguez gave the signal, and Operation Thunderclap began. Across the planet, thousands of small, simple devices were activated. They weren't advanced weapons, just basic electromagnetic pulse generators built from old microwave parts and radio equipment. Alone, each was harmless. Together, they created a massive disruption in the electromagnetic field around Earth. In orbit, the Vexari ships suddenly lost contact with each other. Their perfect formation faltered as automated systems went offline. For the first time, confusion spread through the alien fleet. At the same moment, military forces launched attacks against the Vexari ground teams. In the Sahara, French special forces used simple sand-colored nets to trap alien scouts. In Canada, snipers used old-fashioned rifles with no electronic parts that the Vexari could detect. In Australia, Aboriginal guides led soldiers through back routes to surprise the aliens setting up equipment. These weren't high-tech battles. They were ambushes, the kind humans had used against stronger enemies for thousands of years. On the Vexari command ship, alarms began to sound. Allison, Jack, and Gardner ducked into a side room as aliens rushed past. "It's working," said Gardner. "Let's move faster." They reached a large door that Allison believed led to the computer core. It was locked, but she had prepared for this. She attached a small device to the control panel. It wasn't sophisticated, just a power surge that overloaded the simple lock mechanism. The door slid open. Inside was a vast room filled with glowing pillars. At the center stood a sphere of swirling light and data, the main computer that controlled the entire fleet. "Cover me," said Allison as she approached the sphere. Jack and Gardner stood watch at the door. She searched for an access point and found what looked like an information port. The Vexari technology was advanced but followed logical patterns. She connected her device to the port and activated Daniel's virus. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere's color changed from blue to red. The pillars around them began to flicker. "It's working," she called. "The virus is spreading through their network." Suddenly, 3 Vexari guards entered the room. Gardner and Jack pulled out their weapons, simple dart guns loaded with a sedative that Grace had determined would work on Vexari biology. 2 aliens fell, but the third fired some kind of energy weapon. Jack pushed Allison aside and took the hit. He fell to the floor, his chest smoking from the blast. "Jack!" Allison cried. Gardner fired again, taking down the last guard. "We need to move. Now!" Allison checked Jack's pulse. It was weak, but there. "We can't leave him." "We won't," said Gardner, lifting Jack over his shoulder. "The virus is planted. Let's get back to the shuttle." As they ran through the corridors, chaos was spreading through the ship. Lights flickered, doors opened and closed randomly, and confused Vexari ran in all directions. The virus had done more than disrupt communications. It had broken the perfect order that the aliens depended on. On Earth, the battle continued. The Vexari launched attacks from orbit, but without coordination, their strikes missed key targets. Human forces used this confusion to target the aliens' ground teams. It wasn't a fair fight. The Vexari had far superior weapons, but humans had the advantage of home territory and desperate creativity. In New York, police officers used fire trucks to spray the aliens with water, shorting out their energy weapons. In Tokyo, engineers redirected subway ventilation fans to create powerful wind tunnels that knocked Vexari soldiers off their feet. In Rio de Janeiro, carnival workers used bright lights and loud music to disorient the aliens, whose senses were more sensitive than humans. Back on the command ship, Allison and Gardner reached the shuttle bay with Jack. They placed him gently inside their craft and prepared for takeoff. "Stop them!" came a voice behind them. Zarvex stood with a group of guards, all pointing weapons at the humans. "You primitive creatures," said the Vexari leader. "Did you think your simple virus could defeat us? We are already adapting to it." Gardner stepped forward, placing himself between the aliens and the shuttle. "You made a mistake coming to Earth, Zarvex. You judged us by our technology, not by our spirit." "Spirit is irrelevant," said Zarvex. "Power is what matters." "No," said Gardner. "Adaptability matters. You've spent thousands of years becoming perfect at what you do. We've spent thousands of years learning to do things differently every time." As he spoke, Gardner pressed a button on his watch. It was the second phase of Operation Thunderclap, a signal to activate weapons that had been secretly placed in Earth's orbit during the past 2 weeks. They weren't missiles or lasers. They were simple kinetic weapons, basically large metal rods that used gravity and speed instead of explosives. As they began to fall toward the Vexari fleet, Zarvex received a warning from his officers. The alien leader's compound eyes widened as he realized what was happening. He raised his weapon to fire at Gardner. Allison had been working on the shuttle controls while they talked. Now she hit the launch button. The craft's engines fired, knocking the Vexari off balance. Gardner jumped inside as the door closed. The shuttle shot out of the bay just as the first kinetic weapon struck the Vexari fleet. Ships exploded in silent bursts of light and debris. The command vessel shook as it was hit, but its shields held. "We need to get back to Earth," said Allison, piloting the shuttle away from the battle. "Jack needs medical attention." Gardner looked back at the Vexari ships. Some were falling from orbit, breaking apart as they hit the atmosphere. Others were firing wildly, their perfect coordination shattered by the virus and the surprise attack. "We hurt them," he said, "but this fight is just beginning." As their small craft raced toward Earth, Allison wondered if humanity had done enough. The Vexari were wounded but still powerful. Earth had revealed its best tricks and might not get another chance. What neither of them knew was that Daniel and Grace had added something extra to the virus, a message that was now spreading through the Vexari fleet, showing them exactly who they were dealing with and why they had made a terrible mistake coming to Earth. 3 months had passed since Operation Thunderclap. The view from the moon base showed a changed Earth. Parts of major cities were dark where Vexari weapons had hit. Smoke still rose from some regions, but lights still shone across most of the planet. Humanity had survived. Admiral Gardner stood at the window of the control room, looking at the home he had helped save. His uniform was worn and new scars crossed his face. The battle had cost him, cost everyone, but Earth remained free. "Admiral, you should see this," called Allison. She had been monitoring deep space signals from the new array built on the far side of the moon. The array used parts from destroyed Vexari ships combined with human technology. Gardner walked over to her station. "What did you find?" "A signal from beyond Jupiter. It's Vexari code, but different from what we've seen before. After Operation Thunderclap, most of the alien fleet had retreated to the outer solar system. For weeks, they had regrouped while Earth prepared for another attack. Both sides had suffered heavy losses. Millions of humans had died when the Vexari launched their full attack. Dozens of alien ships had been destroyed by Earth's desperate defenses. Jack Murphy joined them, walking slowly with a cane. He had barely survived his injuries from the command ship mission. "Is it their reinforcements?" he asked. "No," said Allison, studying the data. "It's coming from a ship that wasn't part of the original fleet. It's much larger." Daniel Foster entered the room with Grace Williams. They had been working on the moon base's defenses, using what they had learned about Vexari technology. "We've finished the new firewall," Daniel reported. "Their viruses won't work on us again. The aliens had counterattacked with their own computer, weapons after the first human virus. For weeks, the two sides had fought a digital war alongside the physical one. It was a battle of creativity versus perfection, with each side learning from the other. "The signal is moving," said Allison suddenly. "Whatever it is, it's heading toward Earth." General Rodriguez entered the control room. She had been inspecting the new weapons platforms built from Vexari wreckage. "All defense systems are ready," she said. "If they want another fight, we're prepared." For many days they had wondered why the Vexari fleet hadn't launched another full attack. Now they had their answer. The aliens had been waiting for something. Or someone. "It's a mothership," said Allison as new data came in. "Much larger than anything we've seen before. It must have been following the first fleet." Everyone fell silent. They had barely survived the first battle. If this ship carried fresh troops and weapons, Earth might not win again. Gardner straightened his uniform. "Send a message to Earth Command. All forces on high alert." The massive Vexari ship emerged from behind Jupiter, becoming visible to Earth's telescopes. It was shaped like a giant silver star, with 5 points extending from a central sphere. It dwarfed the entire remaining alien fleet. "Time to arrival?" asked Gardner. 3 days at their current speed," Allison answered. Gardner nodded. "Then we have 3 days to prepare." For the next 72 hours, Earth readied itself for what might be its final battle. The moon base was now humanity's main defense platform. Using reverse-engineered Vexari technology, they had built weapons that could strike targets throughout the solar system. William Carter arrived from Earth by shuttle with representatives from major governments. "The world stands united, Admiral," he said. "All resources are committed to defense." On the third day, the mothership slowed as it approached Earth orbit. The remaining Vexari fleet joined it, forming a protective circle around the giant vessel. "They're sending a transmission," said Grace. "It's directed at us specifically." Gardner nodded. "Put it through." The screen showed a Vexari unlike any they had seen before. Its skin was darker, almost gold, and it had additional limbs and eye clusters. When it spoke, the translation came through with a different tone than Zarvex had used. "I am High Commander Vex Orn of the Vexari Combine. You will cease hostilities and surrender your world immediately." Gardner stepped forward. "This is Admiral Samuel Gardner of Earth. We have no desire for further conflict, but we will defend our planet." The alien seemed to study him. "Your resistance is unexpected. No species has ever damaged a Vexari fleet before. Explain how primitives achieved this." Gardner looked at his team. Allison, Jack, Daniel, Grace, and all the others who had fought so hard. "We're not primitive. We're just different from you. You value order and perfection. We value adaptation and creativity. These are inefficient traits," said the High Commander. "But effective," replied Gardner. "Your ships are more powerful than ours. Your weapons are more advanced. But you think the same way every time. We think differently every time. That's why you couldn't beat us." The alien was silent for a moment. Then it said something unexpected. "We wish to understand this trait." Gardner was surprised. "You want to learn from us?" "The Combine adapts. We conquer or we learn. Your species has proven worthy of study rather than simple conquest." Allison stepped forward. "What are you proposing?" "A truce," said the High Commander. "We will withdraw our forces beyond your Mars. We will observe and exchange knowledge. In return, you will share your creativity with us." The humans looked at each other. Was this a trick? Or had they actually impressed the Vexari enough to change their plans? "We need time to discuss your offer," said Gardner. "You have one planetary rotation," replied the High Commander before ending the transmission. In the silence that followed, Carter spoke first. "Can we trust them?" "Probably not," said Rodriguez. "But our defenses are stretched thin. We might not survive another full-scale battle." Daniel had been checking data during the conversation. "Their ship has enough firepower to destroy our entire moon base in seconds, but they didn't attack immediately like the first fleet did." "They're being cautious," said Jack. "We surprised them once. They don't want it to happen again." Gardner made his decision. "We accept their truce, but on our terms. They stay beyond Mars. No Vexari sets foot on Earth or the moon without permission, and we want access to their database as a show of good faith." The next day, they delivered these terms to the High Commander. To their surprise, the Vexari agreed with one condition. They would place observation posts at the edge of the solar system to study human creativity. Over the next year, an uneasy peace held. The Vexari mothership and fleet retreated beyond, Mars as promised. Earth rebuilt, using some alien technology but maintaining human independence. The moon base expanded into a full colony, a first step toward human expansion into space. Admiral Gardner, now heading Earth's new space defense force, received a strange message one morning as he reviewed reports in his office on the moon. "Admiral," said Allison, entering with a tablet, "our deep space monitors have picked up something odd. All Vexari communications have suddenly gone silent." "What do you mean, silent?" "All signals from their empire, from all 12 star systems they claim to control, stopped at once, complete silence." Gardner looked out the window at the distant stars. "What could cause that?" Allison shook her head. "I don't know. But the message the virus sent them keeps playing in my mind." The message had been simple. "We are humanity. We have been fighting ourselves for thousands of years. Now we finally have someone else to fight. Thank you for uniting us." As Gardner looked at the stars, he wondered what had happened to the Vexari. Had another species defeated them? Had they destroyed themselves? Or had they simply decided that some worlds were best left alone? Whatever the answer, one thing was certain. They had sent an armada to Earth, and now only silence remained.